Sometimes I think being a realist makes me an enemy. You got a lot of fluff channels on the YouTube space when it comes to your Detroit Lions. And it's sad because there are very few that can give it to you raw and unfiltered like myself. And with that being said, we're going to have a conversation today. And I think you have to look at this objectively. And that is James Houston safe on the Detroit Lions roster? Now, we're going into the last game of preseason, and James Houston has really yet to make an impact during the preseason. And if you go back to last year, yes, he was injured. Some things are out of your control. Some things are out of the game's control. It's unfortunate to him, but for him, but that is the reality. There have been many people who have lost their job to injury. So the question that I put before you is, do you think that James Houston makes the Detroit Lions roster? Now, if we look at this objectively, what has James Houston done? You take out the sacks, the 8 sacks in 7 games. You take that out. What do you have? You don't have anything. You ever heard of Lynn Sanity? Jeremy Lin used to play for the New York Knicks. Had a moment where they called it Lynn Sanity because he went on this run where he was viral before viral was really a thing. And just as quick as he came, he left, right? So James Houston's first year was no doubt great. And I remember specifically listening to, I can't remember who it was, but it was one of the offensive linemen. And I heard that somebody told Dan Campbell, like, listen, if you don't play this guy, he's going to get snatched off the practice squad. Speaking of practice squad, the reason James Houston landed on the practice squad is because he was cut from the Detroit Lions 90-man roster. Let's go back to 2022. James Houston, Aiden Hutchinson, Malcolm Rodriguez, Josh Pascal, those guys are drafted, Jamison Williams. But our 2 6th-round picks were Malcolm Rodriguez first, James Houston second. James Houston and Malcolm is the darling of the preseason. James Houston gets cut, which essentially resets his contract. James Houston is put on the practice squad. James Houston is a non-factor. Nobody cared or knew really what he was on the Detroit Lions until he played and sacked Josh Allen twice in the game on Thanksgiving Day against the Buffalo Bills. From that moment on, he wound up getting 8 sacks in 7 games. So this guy averaged at least 1 sack a game. Now, I didn't do any research at this moment, but I believe that he sacked Josh twice, and there were multiple sacks on one quarterback, meaning he sacked the same quarterback multiple times. Now, I think sometimes that can skew your numbers. If you look at Khalil Mack had, 16, 18 sacks, somewhere around there, and he got 6 in one game against one quarterback. So sometimes those numbers can be a bit deceiving. So let's take those 7 sacks and let's put them on the side. Let's look at James Houston since. Oh, they put James Houston in coverage and he got hurt. I thought he got hurt on the special teams play, but nonetheless, he was hurt. Was he out of position? Maybe, but he was hurt. He lost valuable time. Now he came back, helped us with our playoff run. I don't remember him being a factor, but you might remember differently. With that being said, James Houston is up against it now. He is currently injured. He got a knee bruise in the first preseason game where, to me, he just looked out of it. He just looked out. It looked like he wasn't really feeling it. Maybe he was hurt at the time. I don't know. But then you have preseason game 2. Hasn't been cleared to go, not going. Then you got guys, dogs, hungry guys trying to make this team. Matthew Betts, who has not played in a NFL regular season game. Isaac Ukwu. You've got Mitchell Agude, undrafted dudes trying to make an impact, trying to make a name. Now is not the time for James Houston to get injured. So, again, if we're looking at this objectively and you remove, but James Houston had 7 sacks in 8 games and 8 sacks in 7 games. And we got to move forward. We made it to the NFC title game with Kendall Vildor. Josh Reynolds dropped a whole bunch of passes. NFL stands for not for long. What have you done? We hear it all the time. This is a what have you done for me lately league. We hear it from players and analysts alike. And lately, James Houston has done nothing. So the question that I have for you is, can you objectively say that James Houston should make the team over Mitchell Agude, Matthew Betts, Isaac Ukwu? Can you say that right now? Oh, but James Houston had 8 sacks in 7 games. If you answer no to that question, then James Houston may not make this roster. Now, here's the deal. James Houston has one more opportunity, in my opinion, to prove itself. I'm not past Brad Holmes cutting draft picks. We have parted ways with Antoine Green. We let Chase Lucas move on. I believe that Jamar Jefferson is going to find a new home this year. And James Houston has already been cut from the Detroit Lions once before. So I'm going to say this. James Houston, I'm on the fence right now. I'm on the fence. Right now, no, I take that back. Let's back up. I'm not on the fence right now. Listen. The stuff that I hear in the comment section is utterly stupid to me. James Houston, my view of him have zero to do with the color of his skin. I've always said he was a one-trick pony. I think Dan Campbell mentioned one-trick pony before and how you have to be more than that, okay? I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but the conversation about Matthew Betts and James Houston was coming up, and the phrase one-trick pony was used. I think that James Houston was a benefit of his speed, and we know in the NFL you have to have more than one trick. That hence the word one-trick pony. James's trick is speed. You have to develop. We talk about it all the time about pass rush moves. Does James Houston have the strength? He is a lot heavier than I thought. The last I checked, Hutch is 265. That was last year. When James Houston, the season started, he was 245, right? But you're talking about 300-pound linemen, 330-pound linemen. If James Houston cannot get past them, he's not going to get to the quarterback. So the question I have for you is this. We have one more game. I'm not on the fence right now. You cannot objectively put James Houston on this team over a guy like Matthew Betts, who had one good showing, who had Mitchell Agude, who's been doing his thing, even Isaac Ukwu. Nate Lynn, had he not had a season-ending injury. So when you look at depth, and the crazy part is, we just talked about Matthew Betts being fourth string on the depth chart. I think that changed today. Now, we heard from Dan Campbell that James Houston, Matthew Betts were going to be put in different positions, rush the passer. We saw Matthew in coverage a little bit today, and I was like, Dan, but you said something different, bro. And the minute he put him out there to rush the passer, he got there. He was pressuring the quarterbacks, everything we thought he could do. Now, I had to kind of scale back a little bit because he was a non-factor in game one. Maybe it's because he was out of place. He's in here to do one thing, sack the quarterback. So going into preseason game 3, I mean, just imagine if there was a preseason game 4, how much. That's why that going down to 2 games in the preseason, a lot of people are going to be cut. Like the UFL, those leagues are going to become super important. Right now, I'm not on the fence. Right now, James Houston, I can't put him on the roster. I'm not in charge, though. It's just my opinion. He can't be on the roster. Not right now. And in my honest opinion, he has to have a stellar. You want James Houston to make this roster, he has to duplicate one of his rookie season games. He's got to show why he needs to be on this team, just like everybody else. See, I'm not using James Houston's year 1 as a barometer. I'm using the past 2 years. And again, the NFL stands for not for long. What have you done for me lately, league? And lately, James Houston has done nothing. But he's not the only one. Donovan Peoples-Jones. There's a lot of people. So I want to put it past you. James Houston, does he make the team if you look through an objective lens right now? He has to have a stellar. He would have to. I remember last year, we're going into the last preseason game, and every single year, there's somebody battling. I'm talking about a bubble guy who is fighting for every single second to make the team. It was Craig Reynolds 2 years ago. Last year, it was Chase Cota. Let me remind you of Chase Cota. Chase Cota got injured in the second preseason game, if I remember correctly, and was let go because of it. Because he was in a battle with Antoine Green, Dylan Drummond, battling it, man, for that spot, for those last few wide receiver spots. And he was hurt. He was waived with an injury settlement. He wind up getting a Super Bowl ring with the Kansas City Chiefs if he was still on the roster. And they gave their practice squad rings. That means Isaiah Buggs got one too. So This moment, I got to say, James Houston, I, in good conscience, just a dude sitting in his basement talking about his favorite team. But me in good conscience, that has zero to do with the color of his skin or his race, cannot put James Houston on this team. Not over a guy like Agude, Betts, or even the last guy that I said. So let me know your thoughts. Again, this space is a very unique space. A lot of people in this space want to appease you. They want to tell you what they know you want to hear. And I must admit, it's not always easy. It's not always easy. I'm not trying to be negative. That's not what I'm trying to be. But you know what's crazy is I've heard that a lot. And I don't know if it's because people translate real to negative. You ever had somebody tell you something and you be like, duh, right? I know that already, right? I am not trying to be negative. I'm not trying to be any type of way. But in this space, you guys know, because there's 100 billion, trillion, gazillion Detroit Lions YouTube channels, and I am ready for more. The more, the merrier. We don't have enough people talking about our team. So it's good that we can take average Joes and make them talk about the team. Because just now the media wants to talk about our team. And from what I understand, NFL Network was all over the Kansas City Chiefs today. That's why I'm glad I was able to see it on Fox. But you don't have a lot of real ones in this space. Very few of them. Very few of them. I myself, as a matter of fact, I know that I'm one of them. And I will always tell you what I believe to be the truth, whether you like it or not, right? So from me, you're going to get, in my opinion, James Houston is a bubble player right now. So after the last preseason game, we'll make a deal. I'll give you my opinion because the cuts will start happening. They got to be done. Lions play Saturday the 24th. 3 days later, they got to be cut. They got to get down to 53 and fill the practice squad. If James Houston, after this game, I'll give you a better kind of scenario. If he does not make the 53-man roster, I will say to you, my name is Detroit Lions Syndicate, and I apologize. I was wrong. James Houston made the roster. If he doesn't, you'll put it in the comment section. My name is Joe Schmo. You were right. I will say you were right, I was wrong, or I was wrong, you were right, blah, 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 blah. If it goes the other way, you do it. No hate on James Houston. I'm just calling it like I see it. The same way Nate Sudfeld is still trash. So let me know your thoughts, man. You guys are awesome. Take care of yourself and each other. And as always, go Lions. Just a little something I wanted to. Matthew Betts' name is Matthew, not Matu.